Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good middle of the night, whatever time it is where you're watching. And welcome to Sidetrack, your sci-fi TV and movie channel with damn it, did it again, Stormy Bear and young Harris joining us to talk.
Young Harris.
Young Harris with hair.
I don't know what to do with it anymore.
44 years old. I'm not doing too badly, but
Not too bad.
Really? Really?
You've got a few years to Stormy. You're the wise old American.
Really?
Or an American. But yeah, we are here this evening to chat about a little bit of season 4 of Stargate. What we thought of the show, our likes, our not so much likes, and generally, I got strong feelings about this series, but I got strong feelings about most seasons of Stargate. But before we get into that, before we start telling us all about Stargate and whatever season 4, what we've been up to this week, gentlemen. Stormy, what have you been watching, sir?
I've been watching a bunch of stuff. I haven't been binging one single thing. I kind of spread it out this week because my 5-week Stargate everything binge I need to space it out. Speaking of Stargate, though, I discovered something I should have known, but I didn't. You can order comic books on your Kindle. So I got the the season 2 comic book of what was supposed to happen in season 2 in Stargate Universe.
Excellent.
And I read through that, and it was fun. It was cool to read, and I didn't have to, trudge around 2 or 3 dozen comic book shops to find it. I just ordered it on my Kindle. Amazing.
There you go, everybody. Get on your Kindles.
So the things I watched this week was I watched Westworld, a couple episodes of that. Pennyworth is really good. I really didn't have, it was just it's not going to be it, but it was really good. Of course, Rings of Power. Andor, I thought Andor is still really good. I got a buddy at work that just can't stand the thought. He's protesting it because it's Disney. There's
a lot of hate on it.
There's a lot of protesting going on, isn't there, in the world?
Yeah, right. Just
why are so many people so angry?
Yeah, people like
he does seem to be. I don't know. I've been shouting at him across the room, Andor, and then peer pressure, but it doesn't do any good. Also watching a bit of Handmaid's Tale, which was I really love Handmaid's Tale, but I got to take that in bits and pieces. It's darker and shit this year. I mean, this last season, it's just holy crap. Hats off to Elizabeth Moss for directing it so well, but lots of cringe worthiness.
I've never watched it. I've seen it on. I don't know what it's on over here. I've seen it, but I've never watched it.
It's like America next week.
Oh, okay. Jesus. Okay.
And then I'll start catching up on the last season of Archer. That's always fun.
It's the stupidest show, but I love that show.
And that's how we get Aunt Lana. And the last thing was House of the Dragon.
I enjoyed this episode, actually. I thought they did really well with the everybody's older thing. I barely noticed, to be fair. Didn't bother me. I've got a question about that in a minute, but we'll come back to it. Remind me to ask the question about it. But Harris, what you've been? You've been. What haven't you watched this week?
What haven't I watched? That is a good question. There's 2 movies I have not seen in the theater, and one of them is Sigourney Weaver's new little one with Kevin Kline, but I don't know if I'm going to go see that. I don't know if I'm going to go see Bros either, just because I'm not much of a rom-com person, but I have seen everything else that's been released this weekend, which was, I guess, I saw Amsterdam a week early. Amsterdam releases this next week. It is not getting all that good of reviews, but it is a very character-driven film, and I enjoyed the actors having fun with what they were doing. The story's the most just straightforward, simple little narrative possible, and it takes the whole first act to get into the story. But I thought it was a fun film overall. Great cast, essentially, just having a good time. But after that, I saw Vesper, which I think y'all should both see. You're seeing it today, aren't you?
I'm not seeing Vesper today. No, I'm seeing it. I am going to see it later in the week, but yeah, it's not out here yet.
Well, y'all are gonna like it. It's a fairy tale, just kind of. It's world building and a fairy tale, all in like a very sci-fi way. It's fun. Really original. I enjoyed it, and I got to see the filmmakers come out and talk about that. And Ryan Johnson, the guy that did Knives Out and The Last Jedi, he popped out and interviewed everybody, which was interesting. I couldn't ask the Last Jedi questions, so that I trained myself there. But after that, I saw Smile the next day on Friday, and then yesterday I saw Dead for $1, which is a new Western. Smile was terrifying and awesome. Also, somebody's very first film. I think they've directed a couple shorts, and the guy did excellent. And Dead for $1 was, I think, Walter Hill, who did the Deadwood pilot, and he's done a bunch of other Westerns throughout time. It was decent. It was pretty damn good. Think his Twilight days might be over as a director, but it was still fun. It was a generally good Western. Besides that, I think I saw Rings of Power, Rick and Morty, House of the Dragon, Andor, She-Hulk, all the usual.
Oh, God, She-Hulk.
I'm
growing a hatred for She-Hulk. I'm growing a real dislike for it. I mean, I keep watching it, and every time I watch it, I'm saying, why am I watching this? And the next week, I'm like, why am I watching this again?
I like it, or I want to like it, and it's just not there. It's not funny, and that hurts because it should be a comedy, but it's not funny.
To be purposefully aimed at women. That's the demographic. They were. It does seem, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Marvel seems to have gone, should we make a show for women? And I'm just watching it going, I think the humor and stuff is like, I think my wife would like this. Because men and women are different people. I know that's a big shock. Men and women are different. And it's just like, I just don't like it. But I don't like a lot of Marvel are doing at the moment now. It's a bit of a worry. But
yeah. I mean, Jessica Gao is the showrunner for it. And I know you haven't seen Rick and Morty, but I know you know Pickle Rick, the episode where he turns himself
Pickle Rick!
She's the one who wrote the episode.
Really?
And she's doing all of She-Hulk, which, if she did frickin' Pickle Rick, I expect the show to be funny. And I just haven't laughed. I've chuckled a couple of times, but
it's trying to be funny. I can tell you the bits where it's trying to be. I'm like, that was trying to be a joke. I didn't find it funny. And I'm like, and I know what they're trying to do with it. It's just, I saying it just doesn't seem to be quite hitting where it needs to hit.
Well, if it's not funny,
it's just a fun.
If it's not funny, it should at least dive further into hulking or dive further into lawyering. One of the two. For attorney at law, we haven't gotten much lawyering, and which would be interesting in the MCU. Because there's a lot of legalities to work out within a superpowered world, but
it would be interesting. Yeah. Why does Marvel seem to be just trying to do comedies at the moment though? I don't get it. They're just going really. Everything's just like the nice thing about Marvel before was it was funny in bits because real life is funny, like and when things get horrible in real life, which is what I was thinking when you see dramas and they're not funny at all, and they say, "Oh, it's gritty in real life," and I'm like, "No, it's not." I've been in really shitty situations in my life, and one of the first things you do, maybe it's a British thing, but the first thing we do is take the piss out of everybody and and try not to blow our own brains out. We use humor to break up things. I work for the NHS. We have death constantly. We will joke about. We'll have sweepstakes on when's the first ginger person going to die that day, and things like this. And it's just like just to try and break the ice. But. So when you see that, so in like say Marvel movies, when there's a bit of humor, I'm like, yeah, that's real life. But they're making comedies, and they're just not very good.
They just don't make it. They try, and they just don't land for me.
Yeah,
I feel like the last thing that took itself seriously while still having fun. It wasn't as good as Endgame or Infinity War, but I think Ant-Man and the Wasp was the last one that actually felt self-serious while still in the Marvel kind of quirkiness. Everything else since then, including Spider-Man, which Spider-Man did feel serious at parts, but I feel like it kind of lessened some of the more dramatic moments with bad decision making. Even though I do like the film generally, everything else has just been funny and fun compared to funny and fun, but serious and grounded at the same time.
A realistic humor, though, isn't it? You know, somebody's a bit sarcastic, somebody's a bit thing, but it's still grounded. You know, and that was the thing with Marvel; it was always grounded, and it just seems to. And I know they're going to try to do different things. They seem to be just trying maybe a bit too hard. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe they're trying to force it. I did see Morpheus the other night. I finally got around to seeing that. It's not very good.
No.
There's a reason why it bombed.
Morpheus? Yeah. Oh, Morbius.
Sorry, I said Morpheus, didn't I? I was taking my blue pill. I was like, take a lovely blue pill. Nom, 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 nom.
It was so bad, I knew what you were talking about.
Yeah, I saw a bloody awful vampire movie. Morbius. Yeah. It was pretty. It was so bad. I thought DC had made it. That's how bad it was. It was just shocking. But and that's not fair. It's good in places, but it was very much like the other one. Carnage and that as well.
Oh yeah, Venom and all.
Venom and Carnage. It just seems to be that it's really badly edited. It seems to be really jerky in places, and there's a bit. Sorry, go on.
You can tell they cut out Tyrese Gibson said that he had a whole other arc to his character, and we didn't see anything of Tyrese Gibson in the movie. Why hire Tyrese if you're going to have him in there for 4 scenes? You know, he's expensive.
There's bits in Morbius, so again, they just don't explain. There's just be they'll be like the whole blue blood and red blood thing they touch on, but they don't really go into it in any detail. The best example I've got though is for the way these films are made and edited together was in Venom Carnage. Venom sees Carnage for the first time and goes, "Oh, that's a red one. I'm out of here," and tries to run away. And then the voice is, "No, come on, we've got to fight." He goes, "Oh, okay, well, I'll fight him then." They don't explain that at all. Why was Venom worried about him being a red one? They just don't explain it. And I'm saying, I feel like that's the sort of thing that should have been explained. And there's a couple of points in Morbius that I'm like the same. I'm like, something's been cut out there and they've not twigged that it was important later. It's just just a terrible movie. But anyway. Yeah, you didn't mention Lower Decks, and they did the Deep Space Nine episode, and it was bloody brilliant. I absolutely loved it. So I'm loving Lower Decks this season. I love the bit at the very start of the movie. At the start of the bit, they don't want to dock just yet. So it says just keep going around the ship, and as if we're just ooh, look at the pylons. And then they just I thought, it's good poke fun there. I like that. Good. So yes. Other than that, one question I wanted to ask about House of the Dragons. Somebody put a comment today about it being woke. And so I asked why, and they said it was because of gender politics. So I asked why, and they couldn't really explain. Just very, very quickly. Any freaking clue what he's talking about?
In House of the Dragon?
Yeah, I don't get it. I assume it's because the female roles are the powerful roles in it. I
don't know.
Somebody once asked the author, why he always had such strong female characters, and he said something like, "Well, because I write them as people."
Mm-hmm.
We're
all scared of our moms.
Yeah, and I always found that kind of intriguing that it was. Well, yeah, they're people. So, you have, if you look at Game of Thrones, it is a mishmash of male and female power characters, mishmash of gender mishmash of failures, mishmash of everything, lovers, fighters, comedians, murderers. And gender politics and.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
I didn't get it. I'm usually kind of sensitive to that, so I can make fun of it. But I just I don't know. I don't see it.
Yeah.
I really don't see it.
Sure, Rhaenys was supposed to be the queen at one point, and Rhaenyra is supposed to be the queen going forward. But at the same time, there's the whole plot of the show is people saying, "Yeah, we don't want that," and we're fighting back against that, and her having to prove that, which is not necessarily, I guess, gender politics. It's a human trying to boost their place inside of their house in an ancient time. I don't know. It all makes perfect sense.
And it actually happened in history in the UK. One of our most powerful, she was actually called the warrior queen, was Queen Elizabeth.
Queen Elizabeth.
And the first, and she basically saved. Well, she was
golden age.
Yeah, when Spain tried to. Yeah, when dysentery was really a problem. It wasn't the golden age. We all shit in the streets, mate. The golden age. But yeah, people nostalgically back in history. No, flushing toilets. Thank you. We win.
So a lot of people that I meet that are British are astonished that I know so much about early British history. And I keep telling them, well, you have to understand that British history is American history up until 1776. And then we're not taught a lot after that, of British history, except maybe World War II, Churchill, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, yeah, that's part of American history is British history up until a point, and then we threw their fucking tea in the harbor.
Yeah. And somebody says to me, goes, I don't really know a lot about history in American. And I was like, yes, because you haven't got any. That's why. You just borrowed ass.
It's all yours, bro.
Yep.
But anyway, I did. He did come back to me and sort of said, I reject all these sorts of things because it's not realistic. And I'm like, nobody ever said that about an Arnie movie. Watch Commando. No point in that movie is that realistic.
No.
But because he's a man, he's not a Mary Sue. He literally doesn't get a scratch on him in that entire film, and an entire army tries to shoot him. It's not remotely realistic. So sometimes films aren't realistic. I know it's a shock. But anyway, let's get away from that because I always get in trouble when I talk about woke. People yell at me and unsubscribe. So Stargate, season 4.
Season 4.
Young Harris has just finished watching this for the first time. Oh, bless him. Look at it. His little Stargate version. Oh, it's so cute.
They grow up so fast.
I know.
The replicators really do.
Yeah. Oh, they replicate like. Oh, mate, you haven't seen season 6 and 7, and they grow up fast.
Oh yeah.
But I'm just going to throw this out there to begin with, and I'd love to know what you guys think. I distinctly remember watching the first episode. It was Small Victories when it aired in the UK, and I genuinely remember going, "This is next level." And knowing that the show had sort of matured and had become, it overtook Star Trek for me that time. That's when Stargate became my favorite TV show, was this season, and particularly Small Victories. The whole Russian sub thing, the whole O'Neill, and the thought that's. But I'd love to know what you guys think. What did you think of? What's your, just when you think about this season? What's just your first thoughts, sort of thing?
Well, I mean, similar to you, I mean, there's a lot happening in this season. There's small victories with the replicators. There's the new Stargate that the Russians have. We're introduced to the UNOS. Excuse me. We were introduced to the UNOS for the first time, and there's a lot of first-time introductions. Yeah. That kind of set up episodes for the next seasons coming up,
There's a lot of episodes that set up things for the next seasons.
Yeah.
The episode, particularly. Sorry, go on, Harris.
No, I've got 3 or 4 episodes left of season 5, and I think 4 or 5 episodes ago was the second Unis episode when you get to meet all that, and Daniel Jackson is obviously the guy that kind of saves the day, of course, in that, but that might be my favorite episode of the whole 4th season. Just introducing like the original Unos homeworld and the original Gould homeworld as well.
Right.
Y'all know I'm a big world builder fan.
Can I just point out this comment, because a guy just put a comment in the video, and it's genuinely made me laugh in my brain because I've never thought about it before. But Stormy, you do look a bit like Danny DeVito. That's never occurred to me, but yeah, a little bit. Why have I just got a chat bubble appear in my thing?
You
God,
could
that
do as
hurt.
Danny DeVito's Penguin for Halloween. Get you some good makeup going.
Well, for Halloween, Gandalf motherfuckers.
Oh, there you go.
Actually, you're gonna grow the beard out a little bit, or what's the plan?
Well, I'm working on it. I'm definitely working on it.
Cool. Okay. But yes, that amused me. I'm sorry, but anyway.
But the favorite thing that happened in season 4 for me was the introduction of Martin, which later on gave us Wormhole X Extreme, which was just, oh my God.
That was great.
That was great.
It introduced us to the final member of the DeLuise family in that episode.
Yeah.
Literally every DeLuise that's ever been alive there's been like 5 of them in this, and the youngest.
How did they get so hooked up to that show? I never could figure that out.
It's because one of the producers was as Peter DeLuise.
But how did he? I mean, it seems
writer and producer on the show. That's how they got Dom DeLuise to do his role in it as well, because obviously it's his dad. And then you're gonna have to remind me, what was the boyfriend's name? I think he comes in season 5, doesn't he? Pete. So Pete, he's a DeLuise, and then the Wormhole Extreme guy that's supposed to be O'Neill is another DeLuise, and then there was.
Does it say Colonel in my uniform?
Peter DeLuise's wife, isn't it? At one point, I think she played some sort of alien. There's like 6 of them. They're all related. So yeah, Google that one of the days, and there's loads of them. I actually think Stargate did a story on it not long ago, actually talking about like the Stargate family, and it was really interesting about how many relationships started on the show and things. But then it has the boys, and it's all the DeLuises that have been in it. It's like goes on and on and on. But Michael Shanks met his first girlfriend who had a child with on the show, and then he obviously met his now wife. I can never say her name, but like Loix Doig or whatever, however you say that. He met her on the show.
She was also the first time I saw her was on Andromeda, Kevin Sorbo's show.
Yeah, so gorgeous. Who knew Kevin Sorbo was insane, by the way? Did you know Kevin Sorbo's insane?
He is. It's kind of disappointing how insane he is.
He's off his absolute rocker.
Yeah.
I didn't know till this week. I accidentally fell on his Twitter feed.
Dear God. I had to block him because everybody that I was following bitches about him and popped up my feed and said, I just got to block this guy. And I read through his shit and he's like, you've got to be kidding. And then Lucy Lawless at one point jumped in, and then it got very entertaining. So I had to unblock him. Oh my God, I love Lucy Lawless even more now.
Like shit, that girl. But, oh man! Anyway, a complete side note, but I only found out this week. Fucking lunatic. But
really, if you've been relegated to only Christian movies for the past 8 to 15 years, something's right.
Yeah. Oh, and he blames everybody else for that as well. It's everyone else. The reason why I'm not in Hollywood is because everyone's so Nancy boy. No, that's the shit you keep saying.
What was another Rob Schneider? Has been bitching about, I'll risk my career to talk about my beliefs in MAGA or whatever. And it's like, aren't you the guy that just pops up as a cameo in all of Adam Sandler's movies? Aren't you? And is that where you're at now?
Rob Schneider's not all MAGA. He's more of leave everybody alone. I like Rob Schneider.
He was
actually on Andromeda. I think that's possibly how we met Lex at first, actually. But anyway,
Schneider was on what's his name? The Glenn Beck's show, and really let her rip.
Lordy,
yeah.
Lordy.
Actors are allowed their politics. Look, I had a stand-up fight with Joseph Malozzi because he's a climate change denier, and I have actually had to block him. And the thing is, what I learned is don't talk to your idols. This guy was one of my heroes. He helped create one of my favorite shows ever. and it got unpleasant. It got really nasty, because that's climate change and something I'm quite passionate about. That I actually want to leave a planet for my great grandchildren, and his politics were not pleasant. So it did get really, really nasty. But anyway, let's get
I
back
wonder
to.
if he owns any property in Florida.
Well, it'll be underwater soon. So,
Too soon?
yeah.
One day we'll
50
find
degrees.
new ones again.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Jesus.
Let's get back to Stargate. So,
Yeah.
Stargate Series 4, Little Victories. Like I said, for me, just the best. He's gone again. Where's he gone? He keeps doing this. He keeps running off.
That AC turned on. I had to turn it off real fast.
Kids today, they can't concentrate on anything for more than 2 minutes. Wander off.
ADD as can be. That's why I have to go see the movie theater so many times a week. Just kind of focus a little bit,
Yeah. Don't need AC in this country. It went from 40 degrees to 20 degrees to 10 degrees in like 3 weeks. It's freezing. And it doesn't stop raining for like 2 weeks. But anyway, so small victories. Like I say, for me, we see the O'Neill. That's a ship that we hear again and again in the series, the O'Neill, which I just love.
We barely knew her.
Yeah. We'll talk about how the series ended, because the series ends with just like a reference that just gets repeated. I'd like to see it in the comments. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Just let's see if anybody can twig what I'm talking about. A reference that just gets repeated over and over and over and over again for the rest of the seasons, and going into Atlantis as well. But
is it indeed?
No, it isn't indeed. Come on, it's more complicated.
What's going on?
More complicated than that. But my favorite episode in all of Stargate's in this season, A Window of Opportunity, which, like, you think, talking about Marvel trying to do funny and it failing. Stargate, when it did funny. I mean, I've watched that episode about 10 times and it still makes me laugh properly out loud. To the point where I've got a t-shirt on site-trek.com with a dolphin swing and a Stargate logo. And that's my favorite Stargate design.
Really?
I love it. I'm getting myself a hoodie and I'm getting myself that logo. I've decided I need to get it at some point. It's getting cold. How about you guys? Is there one episode that like jumps out to you, just go, that was just like genius sort of thing in this season? Because there's a few.
There's a few.
Anyone in particular you want to toss out there?
I don't know, because I've got about 3, I think, that are kind of almost tied for me. Just because, I'm such a big fan of world building, and I always go back to it. But when it's done well and integrated into a story, and it's not like, all right, we're taking 15 or 10 minutes, 5 minutes even to go build a world instead of focus on what's going on. I thought the first ones with the Unis and the Gould episode was great. I loved the Watergate episode with the Russian and going into the underwater world over there and getting caught. I
love the Star Trek connection. Love the Star Trek connection.
See, I don't know the Star Trek connection.
Deanna Troi, the Russian chick.
Yes.
Is she from Star Trek?
She's from Star Trek. She's Deanna Troi. She's also a British actress. She's oh god, now I've forgotten her name. Marina Sirtis. Is that right? Very pretty. I liked her very much in Star Trek. But yes, she was in Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Okay. Well, that episode was great just because one of my favorite things about Stargate in general is going to explore all of these different worlds, all of these different cultures, all of these different species and aliens and these things. And hell, I don't know if we'll ever even go back to it, but just where my mind goes from that could have been, for all intents and purposes, as of now, that is Atlantis in my mind, or would lead to it kind of deal, or the closest thing to it in the Stargate universe, just because there's a whole alien subspecies living inside of a water city.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It made my brain think. Just knowing that Atlantis was there, Stargate Atlantis, I was like, does this correlate? Will this correlate? Probably not, but could it correlate into a new series later down the road? I started just thinking. But then I really liked the reintroduction of Osiris and Sarah, and the death of Daniel Jackson's old professor. or not doctor, professor. Probably
Yeah,
was a doctor.
professor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I thought those were just all really well done in kind of different ways, but really particular and meticulously well done, I'd say.
Well,
No,
one thing that I want to know is why is Harris's head so small?
I think
It's
he's
teeny tiny. Look
very
how
tiny.
he just. It's just.
I'm thinking.
It's so
Yeah, but-
tiny. I can. Are
Roman,
you
you've got
there?
the biggest. Why is your head so big? You're freaking enormous. Danny DeVito's head ain't that big.
Okay, so one episode of one, huh?
I'm chalking it up to rocket science.
Okay, sure.
Is that what aviation fuel does to a person? Just inflates their head massively.
There's one episode that I really liked, but then I really kind of dreaded. Today I dread the concept, and the title of the episode. Well, it's where the Ashen have a run-in with SG-1.
2010.
The title of the episode is 2010. Is filmed in 2000 or it was premiered in 2001, and that was 21 years ago.
2 decades.
Yeah.
Oh crap! God, I'm old.
Right? I mean, it's the title and the premiere date, and it's just like, damn it, that was 21 years ago. And then I have to go. Every time this hits me, I have to go take a nap. I mean, this was such good sci-fi, and even with at the time the effects were really, really sharp. Sci-Fi Channel did something like this, but it's just like that was 21 years ago.
Yeah.
And we're still talking about it today, which is a testament to its quality. But
were you still in nappies 21 years ago, Harris?
Yeah, I was 2 or 3. I was somewhere between 2 and 3, or 3 at that point.
Harris, shut up. I just don't want to hear it.
I'm kicking him out of the fucking.
I was 3 years old when it come out.
Turn of the century, last of the 90s babies. I can't really count myself as a 90s baby, though. Kind of.
I hate that. I was listening to, there was a thing on the radio the other week, and it was 1997, and they were playing a game. They'd play a track from 1997, and then they would play a song, another song. Was it before or after? And I'm there going, 1997 for me was just like, that's when music just peaked. Everything died after that. And I'm like loving these songs. And then I suddenly did the math, and I was just like, oh, for fuck's sake. This is like, I still own all these albums. But yeah. Another episode I loved, though, which I'd have thought you'd enjoy, which if we're talking about episodes that are then important for the rest of the seasons and really change direction of where Stargate was going, and which is that first thing, was the episode Tangent, where we see the X-301 for the first time. Yeah. The part gold, so we'd captured some gold Death Gliders, and we'd used some good old, and probably British ingenuity, let's be honest. You know there's a bunch of British engineers. If you know your American aviation history, you know it was us. So we built you an X-301, and then you got to mass manufacture it, which is how that works. And then I love that bit in the episode. Obviously, they have it's actually Apophis. I can't remember now. Anyway, the hologram pops up and goes, "You have, been naughty, and your god is angry, and we're taking it back." And so the X-301 flies off into space, and they have to go rescue. But I love that episode is because that showed us the first signs of where they were going with Stargate over the next few seasons. So, I mean, it doesn't really, it's not really a massively important episode. It's not the best episode and thing, but yeah, that showed us the first signs then. And then obviously with the X-302 and then the Prometheus not long after. So if you got to the Prometheus yet?
It was like the hinge of humanity was no longer dependent on scraps of technology they found through the gate. They started developing their own tech to travel. And it was bumpy, as we saw. But yeah, the Prometheus, et cetera, and then they started expanding what they had. Yeah. And towards the end of the series, it was dominance. And but that episode when they showed that is like, this is where we're going. and we're no longer, just pulling out of the gate, just trinkets that we find. We've actually, with the help of the Asgard a little bit, this is where we're going.
Yeah, well, we needed shields. Very defendable ship, the Prometheus. No actual fight to it. I did a video on the Prometheus long ago because from a weapons point of view, it was useless. But nobody could touch it because it had Asgard shields. So it was like until somebody did touch it and blew it in half. But Harris doesn't know that yet. Spoilers. That was the thing for me, though. This was the point when we stopped just going through the gate with machine guns and started actually working towards being actual there's a beautiful thing about Stargate, wasn't it? It's always realistic, and it's sort of like the show had to evolve in that direction because obviously we had this enemy that we have to go and fight in the Goa'uld, and we weren't going to just do that the way we were doing it in the first 3 series. We had to start taking the fight to them at some point, and this was that first big step. But they never rushed it, and that was the thing I liked with Stargate. It was never rushed. It was always step sort of thing.
It feels natural. All the politics help it feel natural. I mean, it's nice. That's one of the best parts about the show.
The politics is I think so. There's a couple of episodes here where the politics get involved, isn't there, as well? I mean, we could talk about chain reaction a little bit, but I mean, that's we'll talk about that in a little while. I really enjoyed the Prodigy episode actually with Jennifer Haley. I started to write a script for some like fan fiction, and I was basing it around this character, Jennifer Haley. She really stood out in my mind. She was the captain or the colonel in charge of an X-305, BC 305, sorry, in my fan fiction. But because I work 40 hours a week, I've never written more than about 2 pages, but I will at some point. I'll try. But yeah, I really like that episode because again, it showed more depth to the reality of what the SGC would actually be like. That they would actually have to go out there and try to find the brightest and the best to come and fill the ranks eventually. So I like the reality.
I like that she was immediately introduced as like a foil to Samantha or Sam too.
Yeah.
She's just as smart, just as capable, but a little headstrong sometimes, which is good and bad. And I think they showed both sides of that, which was fun.
And she's only tiny little person, tiny little girl.
When she came back,
yeah, somehow. Even smaller than Harris. That's a normal-sized water bottle he drinks. It's just that his eyes only big.
Oh my God, you've hit it. The water bottle is normal size.
Yeah.
There's 12 ounces in it.
That's why he's so far away. Look, bless him. That chair is one of those. If you guys got Playmobil in America,
Playmobil.
You know what I mean by Playmobil? So they do like little plastic cars, but they do for everything, toys, and they have little fucking Playmobil. You must know Playmobil. You must have Playmobil. But then they do. Oh, I was gonna say he's actually sat in a Playmobil chair.
We have Vauxhalls. Is that the same thing as the Playmobil?
You'll notice it. So I've got to show this to the character now. So that's a Playmobil person. So what's that called in America?
Fisher Price toy.
It's made by Fisher Price. Anyway, okay, Fisher Price. He's actually sat in a Fisher Price chair. This isn't going anywhere. It's such a British joke. But anyway, moving on. Chain reaction. The episode Chain Reaction. So Hammond retires just like out of nowhere. He's retired. Yes. And then we get that Major General Bauer. We're talking about realistic episodes in the NID. This was a good episode, and we got to see that piece of shit Kinsey again as well. But for me, that was one of the standout episodes for me. And any episode where we get his name's gone out of my head. His name's gone out of my head. Sorry, Mayburn. Thank you. And any episode we get Mayborn is always a good one. And this is where Mayborn is.
I'm going to be excited for him. The second he's on screen, I'm just giddy now at this point.
Yep.
It's like, just
what's going to happen? Like where he goes in the later episodes. You genuinely, honestly, we could sit here for the next hour with you just having suggestions on where he ends up, and you won't get close. It's just so good. Yeah, it's so good. You could honestly, it's like trying to imagine what Donald Trump would do back in the 1990s, and you wouldn't can get close to what he actually then did. It's a similar sort of thing. You could come the most extreme thing you could think of, and you're not getting close. But
well, I'd have to watch The Simpsons. They could help me out. They could predict it.
Yeah, they probably do.
They predicted Trump presidency. I think in like the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, they did. There's that whole thing of him coming down the escalator, isn't there? And there's like he actually did. But anyway, so the episode Chain Reaction. What did you guys think of that? Because I mean, that's
great.
That's one of those episodes that stands out, and as well, I love the weapon thing as well. They did that they realized that all these gold places were on Naquita deposits. That's why they had strongholds there. So they had this weapon that could basically just wipe out an entire planet, and then they do it. It's just like the reason I like that episode is because I can actually see our leaders thinking like that. It's just like, well, what can we do? This is before the Prometheus, before the Daedalus, before any of this. So what can we do? Build a massive freaking bomb, and that's what we can do. Hammond is in the way, so we'll get rid of him, sort of thing.
I think it really turned up the definition of how far the NID is willing to go to achieve whatever their goals are. You know, we kind of see them as this bothersome. I mean, before this, we see them as this bothersome kind of rogue agency that's really just a pain in the neck. You got to work around, and then they go do some shit like that, kidnapping children, and then it just really turns. It really turned it up to 11 in terms of how lack of morals the NID was.
Yeah. But it's proper Cold War shit. It's the sort of thing used to go on. You know, it's just like, we'll build a bigger bomb, or we'll assassinate this person. We'll do that. It's proper Cold War thing. But obviously, it's not Cold War in the fact that they then bombed somebody. But it's just like that's why it was believable for me. It was just like this sort of thing. This is the sort of shit. This is how these people think. Because they think that was the thing about the NID, which I always loved as well. They think they're the good guy. You know, they think they're just making those tough decisions. These are the things we're doing this because we have to, not because we want to. And that's where and a lot of these characters it's just the tough choices. So
this is one of those episodes that I was audibly yelling at my screen at multiple points in the episode, and that's when I know it's a damn good episode. Is because you don't want Hammond to retire. You don't. All these things are very realistic in a evil political kind of way. You know, they keep kind of taking people back, putting people in. Yada yada. It's
as soon as Kinsey turns up as well, I always know it's going to be. I was like, this episode's going to make me angry.
Now he's running for president, and that's all I know.
Yeah. But again, Kinsey thought he wasn't a bad guy. You know, he thought he was doing what he had to do. He thought he knew better. You know, and he was. I love Kinsey in that episode where the president comes in. You know, the best filler episode ever when they have the new president. And Kinsey, he's yelling. He's literally yelling at the president that how dangerous all this is. And then he starts talking about God, and the president's sort of like, no, leave that. No, like forget that business. But that's how people like that think. You know, they think that there's only one God, and it's like, no, let's leave that. When we're actually talking about the end of the world shit, let's not start going down that line, sort of thing. So yeah,
it's like, hold up, you know of people walking through a gate to different worlds and dimensions, timelines, to different things. He's read all these reports, and still, I mean, come on now, you got priorities.
Shall we get to the end of the series then? Because I always think the start of the series and the end of the series is what really generally stands out, and for most sci-fi series in particular. And the only thing that maybe is the mid-season, when they have those mid-season doubles. You know, there's like in the classic 22 episode series things. But the end of the series is almost as good as the start of the series. But the bit I was trying to, and nobody jumped in the comments. The bit I was trying to allude to was when Sam destroys a star.
Yes.
And you have the thing of going, and how many times then in the later episodes does Harris not know what I'm talking about? But does she go, I don't know, you destroy one little star, And people think
one little star.
That comes up so many times over and over again in the series. But that was also for me, though, it was an absolute like genius storyline in that. Again, we were just using what we had, weren't we? We an opportunity arose, and then someone smart as well. We could destroy a star, and I could. There's thinking out the box, Carter, and then there's thinking out the box. You psycho. Stop thinking about this. But what did you guys think about the season finale? And we can touch on the 3 episodes we can get to a little bit as well if you like, because it was again a 3-parter.
Well, I mean, I think the season started off strong, ended strong, had a lot of strong points throughout the season that carried the story on into other seasons. But yeah, you destroy one star, which kind of makes Samantha Carter the most destructive force in the universe.
Yeah.
She's like R2-D2 of Stargate.
Yeah. She was like the MacGyver.
MacGyver, McUseless, I love that. I keep seeing it on YouTube all the time.
I love how they still take the piss out, don't you? But I sorry, Harris. So you saw it for the first time recently. I mean, how does it? I'd be interested to know how you think it stands up to. Remembering this show is 20 years old, nearly. How does it stand up to some of the stuff you're watching nowadays, though?
I mean, that's interesting because things are very different in the way they're modeled now. It's a 10 episode, 8 episode, 6 episode, 12 episode kind of deal, depending on what it is. Some shows are 14 and 16, but that's like The Walking Dead, and I don't even think they do that anymore. But for like Stormy said, there's clear like good episodes throughout the entire season, and I really liked the way it ended because it almost felt like when O'Neill and Teal'c are stuck out in space, that was foreshadowing what was happening at the end of the season, which was nice. It kind of primed your brain to say, okay, well, we're going to spend some time away from everybody, but these big things are still going to happen. And there's only certain ways to get out of it, of course. I don't know. I just thought it was really well done. I think if this was to come out now, I don't know if it would be any less cheesy in any ways, like with like comedy per se, but I don't know. I feel like they are doing current Marvel comedy better than Marvel's doing Marvel comedy right now.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. So I wouldn't change a thing for the most part.
Well, we changed something here today on Sidetrack. We got rid of the host. We didn't need that guy at all. So let's talk about woke while he's gone. How much woke can we get into?
American wokeness. Let's go.
Let's go right now. Our soap opera is woke.
Our soap opera is not woke? I
mean, all it is divorce, alcoholism, cheating, and more alcoholism. I mean, have you noticed they come into a room and they pour themselves a whiskey or something in and then it's like no one's an alcoholic.
True. It's the realism. That's the good part about the soaps.
Okay, we got to stop talking about woke. He's back.
Stop trying to destroy my channel. I worked really, really hard on this damn channel. Stop.
But we don't care.
Say the C word every week. Say the W word every week. I am doing my own. Did you see that video I did on my side channel where I told people to stop saying woke and how angry people got? I'm doing fine destroying my channel on my own without you helping. Right.
Soap operas are so popular nowadays.
See, I could go off because but I could still hear you.
Oh well, there we go.
Oh my God, let me back in quickly. I know Stormy too well, where his brain could take if he's given the opportunity, dear Lord.
Well.
So, Stargate Series 4. Where do you think it fits? I'm going to ask you a bit more, Harris, about what you think about how it fits. Yeah. We'll talk about it in a second.
Yeah, drain his brain some more.
Where does it fit with the rest of the series, you think? Where does it... Just generally, what do you think about how important this series is compared to what we've seen up to that point? Stormy or Harris. Oh no, Harris looked like you were about to say something.
Yeah, no, I had to think for a second because if this was a season 1, I think I would have liked it just as much. I think it's season 4 is definitely my favorite so far. Actually, not. I'm almost done with season 5, and I really like everything in season 5. But I really do like season 4, and it's my favorite full season that I've seen so far. I can say. But if it was a first season, I think it would have been an excellent first season. But like you said earlier, I like that Stargate took its time to get to where it is because it's that much more meaningful when you get there compared to that would have been a really good first season. That would have introduced a whole lot of cool concepts and a lot of things. But at that point, you're almost past the machine guns, just jumping through a gate and hoping for the best. And you're taking out Goulds here and there. I feel like it's where a turning point. Your first 3 seasons were almost kind of like Andor 1, 2, 3. It's almost like an act 1, 2, 3, and that's where you're really delving into like the meat and the muscles of the framework, I guess, of the show now. And I'm thoroughly enjoying.
Now we're getting into the hardcore sci-fi.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. The world building's still there. The whole show up till now has been a lot of world building, which just made me happy. But now I'm getting the sci-fi goodness alongside of it, which I never wasn't getting the sci-fi goodness, but it's more inherent now. I think it's
the humanity's getting the sci-fi though, isn't it, as well? So we're moving beyond that. All the sci-fi came from the Goa'uld before. Now it's like it's us as well. So how about you, Story? What do you think?
Well, I think this season was the first time that O'Neill. Well, it took a couple seasons for O'Neill's character to really tolerate Captain Carter at that time. Samantha Carter. And by the time we get to this season, he in one of his little time loops, he resigns and then French kisses her in front of General Hammond. And, we finally understand that, he's in on this too, but he's just really restrained. And I can only imagine the furious masturbation that goes on at Colonel O'Neill's house.
He continues to try to kill my channel. Okay, yeah.
I said furious masturbation.
Well, we see the episode with.
I didn't say Jack was jacking off.
No, no, you didn't. We see the episode with the Tokrada, don't we? Where it looks like it looks all the way through like O'Neill and Carter have been like programmed or something by the Goa'uld. Then it turns out no, they're triggering the system because they love each other and they're lying about it.
Yep.
And that's the first blatant, isn't it? Sorry, Harris.
I was just saying that was a great episode.
Yeah, that's one of the weaker episodes.
A friend of mine used to have this little profile picture of that scene. It was just that one frame of where O'Neill had drawn the crazy happy face and ketchup and mustard on the paper plate and held it up by his head. That was always entertaining to see that.
My favorite meme from Stargate, I think, is it's a Star Trek one at the top.
That crash.
What we got? I can still hear him.
We can hear you.
He'll be back.
He's coming back with a full Danny DeVito cosplay. Watch out.
The one I like though was it was a Star Trek thing at the top, and it goes, "We come to your primitive thing. We can't interfere. We have the Prime Directive, and we do want to interfere with your religious beliefs." And then underneath it's Stargate with SG-1. They're going, "Your gods are all fake. Here's some guns." Like,
here's some guns.
I really, really love that episode. That meme, sorry, that keeps appearing. But
guns.
So where were we at? Oh, just a second. Sorry, I'm trying to. I'm getting bugged by people in other places. The one thing I was genuinely interested in, I've not really thought about it before, Harris. But like I say, you've never watched Stargate before, and now us old farts. For us, it's almost nostalgic, but the show is 20 years old, which is terrifying.
Do we have to keep saying that?
I know.
You got to really hold that point in,
Yeah, keep going. The one thing I think the first series was a little dated, and I think you can tell that they had no budget. It was like $900,000 an episode or something, which is just for a sci-fi series. They stole a lot of special effects from the movie because they just didn't have the budget to do it. There's a whole scene with the Death Glider comes swooping in. You saw a lot in the first 2-3 series.
Yeah.
It was just completely taken from the movie. To, like change the background sort of thing. And no budget. By now, though, I think we've got. I mean, the last episode, Exodus, was actually nominated for an Emmy for special effects. So I think by this point, but from Harry's point of view of watching it from new, how do you genuinely think it stacks up to like a new show? If this series came out today, would we watch it? Or would it
as
be
is, or with like today's?
You could top up the well by series 4 as is. To be honest,
by series 4 as is, I would say yes. I think 1, 2, 3. They're dated and not at the same time. I think they're dated in a technology aspect. They're dated in a way where the effects just don't hold up now, so it kind of brings us into an uncanny valley. But I mean, I love all the world building, but you can't have that without intelligent writing. And I think the writing is what I would say the first 3 seasons would do well today. They might have to condense it. And of course, this is kind of how things work. Our brains are not as used to 22 episode shows, and we kind of want things to happen quicker nowadays. But I think the first 3 seasons would still do well nowadays with updated graphics, just because of the writing. I think it's really intelligent writing, and they weren't necessarily ahead of their time. They're using math and concepts that we've known of in science for the past half century, I guess, maybe longer. But I would say they would. Besides the graphics, just because of the writing, I really enjoy it. It's smart. It knows what it is. And you can tell that whether it's Malozzi or whoever writing the episodes did a shit ton of research prior to going into all of this. And it seems like they continuously do it.
Big on sort of theoretical stuff as well, because you can always tell when it's the Brad Wright episodes, it tends to go into some sort of crazy theoretical sciencey thing. Whenever it's a Timey Wimey episode, someone's always Brad Wright that wrote it. And you can tell they really thought about them as well.
Well, I think on a couple of live streams ago, it was not just the technical stuff and the mathematics that they always do a lot of heavy research on. It's also the Egyptian mythology. I was reading. Yes. I started capturing. I've got a bunch of Egyptian mythology books. I started reading through that. I said, oh shit, they've really done their homework here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they really did. And I think that sense to the reality and the depth of it as well, doesn't it? When there are all these little, they don't just name something, do they? They don't just go, oh, this is Arcesis. There's actually like, a couple of a background. I always sometimes I thought they went a bit too far with the mythology. And it's just like, not everything is a fecking ancient Earth myth. I mean, come on. Yeah. It did get to a point where everything turned up because, oh, well, in ancient history, I was like, oh, no, come on, man. It's going a bit far now, but every system lord was an ancient mythology, some or other. Every planet we went on was just like something from history. It was just shit. What?
Every time I see that damn bottle, it's like the bottle's normal size, right? Harris is only 3 feet tall.
Tiny little person.
The good thing is I broke the water bottle this week, so I have to get a new one. But until then, I'm giant.
How the hell do you get a water bottle? What do you Google on Amazon? Massive fucking water bottle.
Yes. No, I went to Costco and found it.
Normal sized water bottle at Costco. How did you get in? How did you reach the door handle? Because you're obviously a very tiny little person. Is that why you haven't got a door? Because you can't get the interview because like the doors, you can't get through the door.
I saw the funniest Costco. I saw the funniest Costco meme this week. It's like when you catch yourself buying clothes at Costco, that means you've given up on yourself.
I don't know what Costco is.
It's this ginormous, large, big box store that you have to be a member of. It's kind of like Sam's
wholesalers, isn't it?
Club, but the
It's like
opposite.
wholesalers, yeah.
Yeah,
We
you're usually there buying bulk.
have them
kind
here,
of
to be fair.
thing.
Bookers in
It's
this
like
country.
Sam's Club almost, if you know what that is. Walmart's fancy Walmart.
No, it's an American thing. Let's put as
No,
much
Walmart
shit
is.
in one building and charge you. You know.
Walmart bought our Asda and then sold our Asda. That's how I'm trying to know Walmart. And actually, when I was in America, I was in Walmart and we were trying to find alcohol and we accidentally found the gun aisle. Like, wait, what?
Walmart's got anything and everything that you need.
That was a very odd experience. I was like, we wanted a bottle of whiskey. What the hell? But
That's
anyway.
on 2 aisles over. You can grab both.
Yeah, we just walked a bit too far, and then we had because we were already in a little bit. We'd already had a few. We were umming and ahhing about what ID we needed to buy a gun, and we're like, can we just? We've got our driving license, guys. We've got our passports, man. We're driving towards Vegas.
Oh shit! You can get anything in Nevada, man.
Oh yeah.
So like, and my mates are going, I'm pretty sure that's an M16. Like, oh, Jesus Christ, it's an M16. It's not an M16 though. It was the British. What is it? AR-15.
AR-15 or an AR-10.
Yeah, but we were like, okay, we can actually buy an assault rifle. Fun. But yeah. Oh man, America, you guys have got it. It's fucking crazy.
Oh, and I'm Texas at the core. We had a great time.
Yeah. It's like, I do wonder what it's like there for you guys, Harris, watching. To just go back to Stargate for 1 second. I do wonder what it's like for you to watch this show because like I say, I watch this show. For me though, I'm watching. I'm really looking forward to watching Atlantis again. But I'm about halfway through season 5 again. But I watched Stargate loads of times. I watched SG recently just because I did a video saying Stargate Universe was boring, and somebody went, "No, it isn't." So I had to watch the series, and then by the end of it, I went, "Yeah, it is. It's boring."
It was my favorite of the 3.
Shut up!
It was.
Fuck off.
Stormy gets the SGU shirt. We'll stick with our SG1 shirts. Don't worry.
Sorry, Stormy.
It's not, no, you're not.
It's not the best of the 3. You're wrong, mate. You're just wrong. It is gritty and it is think, but it is boring. But it was getting better. I will say to you, I wish it had got a 3rd season. How many sci-fi series do we know the first 2 seasons are not very good? Even SG1, the first season wasn't very good.
It was okay.
Star Trek: The Next Generation, the first season was, except for a few little highlights, was quite bad. You watch it back now, it's like, Jesus, this show is shit. How did this ever make it?
The Binars really annoyed me for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, that whole series annoyed me. So watching it back now, at the time I loved it, but watch it back now, I'm like, I'm just waiting for Geordie to get a random. When did he go from being a pilot to an engineer? How do you get that qualification? But as soon as he goes back down to engineering and becomes the chief of engineering completely randomly, and Tasha Yar gets killed, then the show gets great. But until then, it's not very good. Except for Conspiracy. That episode in the first series is amazing. But lots of series. So I do wonder if it had got SG would have got better. But I also think it was limited. They were really limited on what they were actually able to do with it. They painted themselves into a corner with the whole idea, really. But anyway,
I think it's just super hyper specific on if the show's going to do well those first few seasons. I think a lot of it's budget. Bob just commented The Expanse had a great first couple seasons. Those are probably the best seasons it has.
I would actually argue the best season of The Expanse is the first season.
Oh yeah,
it was great.
Get to the end of that season, it's just like, what the hell? I was almost disappointed with the second season because I was just like, this is so much different. What's going on? And then I realized, it's different for a reason. And I'm like, okay, I'm with this. But the first season was, it was just amazing.
It was Game of Thrones for sci-fi.
In
a lot of ways. That's how I thought of it. And it also, I don't know how y'all feel about season 5 and 6, but those were by far my least favorites comparatively to Game of Thrones, where season 7 and 8 were by far my least favorites there. I feel like it just kind of trailed off. Also, I was really mad they killed off Alex, but the actor,
Well, the book on it as well, but they were very much trying to do something with Expanse, weren't they? So that if they don't get to make the rest, that it was an okay end sort of thing. So, but I keep getting heard we're gonna get more Expanse. So let's see what happens.
Fingers crossed.
Keep hearing it. The most recent rumor I'm hearing though is what I was told recently was Amazon have got a year to take up the option for another series, and if they don't, HBO Max want it or Warner Brothers want it.
Do they have any money left? I mean, you know.
Oh,
Warner Brothers aren't in financial trouble.
No, Amazon.
Amazon, they have no money left.
I mean, you know, after the lavish spending on Power of the Rings, which is now a Nielsen rating leader, ironically, and I'm really struggling to find the criticisms of it valid that anybody ever fucking had on the show. Mm-hmm. It is just top notch. A lot of people got to eat their work.
Rings of Power, the last episode is great.
Yeah.
It suddenly dawned on me though why it's so expensive, because it's not quite, but it's nearly, very, very nearly movie quality.
Yeah.
Throughout. And movies nowadays cost $200-300 million to produce to produce 2 hours.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, if you think about you're going to try to produce a TV show that's 50 hours at near cinema quality, which it isn't. Some people have been really moaning about some of the effects, and I'm like, yeah, okay, some of the effects are a little bit dodgy, but let's remember this is still a TV show compared to everything else on the TV. It's amazing,
right?
But it's not. It doesn't quite compare to some aspects of, you know, it's what we're seeing at the cinemas now. Some of the effects are a little dodgy, but I'm like 50 hours of near cinema quality, and it's going at a pace now. We're seeing battles and things. It's fucking expensive.
I wasn't a fan of. I was a fan of about half of episode 6. I really didn't like the battle all as much as I thought I would. I didn't like. I didn't like the origin story for Mount Doom. I did and I didn't at the same time. I don't. It just felt cheesy. It didn't feel earned, and that. I don't know. There was a lot of setup, but it didn't feel like any of the setup was earned.
The other thing I thought I didn't like about the volcano bit was a Mount Doom bit was I'm there looking at it thinking that's not enough water to do what they then said it was going to do. No, that's not enough water. That would come out and go just into steam immediately. Like that's nothing like enough water. That was just my practical brain.
I think a lot of the things were practical for me in that was just. Could we have a little more? It felt like the Numenorians were arriving on land at the same time. And of course, they were probably a day earlier, but I would have liked that to have been shown because it feels like, okay, land, we've got a day ride. All right, we're there in an hour. And then they're fighting again. And then within the fighting, I really liked all of Arendir's stuff. I think they really are making him like the Legolas of the show in a lot of ways. And
but not as perfect, which I like. He gets his ass handed to him a few times. I do like. He's like the Legolas, but Legolas never got a hand on him. He was never dirty. This character is a bit more sort of gritty and, you know, not as perfect.
Having orcs bleed on you has that effect.
Oh, that was horrible.
Oh my God. It was just like coming squirting out of his eye and into his, oh my God. And I've got eye issues anyway. I'm very triggered by this.
Yeah.
There's people that have those they hate eye violence, and that was one of those episodes was perfect for it.
I'm an eye person. I don't like eye things. I remember my mom's were so. I got a speck of something in my eye once, and it went under the see-through film. So I had to have it syringed off my eyeball. Right. So a doctor had to stand over me and just sort of like with a syringe, and I was about 10, maybe. So I was freaking out. The doctor sort of goes, I probably shouldn't have gone out drinking last night, or something along those lines. And my mom just literally looked at me and went, "You'll be fine, won't you?" And fucked off. I just had to have this thing syringed off my eye, and then like I wear an eye patch for a couple of days, and that was all fine. Like, but I was just like, where'd she go, mommy? So,
Did they have your eye like a clockwork orange open kind of deal just to do
no,
it?
they just held it open, but no,
I've got the worst eye story. If you want to hear it,
go for it. Why not?
Okay, so
Screw sci-fi stuff. Let's talk about eyes for a bit.
I was deep in the woods, far away from my car, hiking by myself. That was mistake number one. And I pushed this branch out of my way, this little branch from a sapling out of my way. It flipped over my hand and went right in my eye.
Oh.
And I couldn't see anything. My eyes were watering and hurt like hell. And it took like 20, 30 minutes for me to just wash whatever it was. I made it to a stream, so I just washed my eye, and it still hurt like hell. And I managed somehow to get back to my car at the trailhead. Yeah. So I drove, I was just exhausted, drove to the local town and went to this little restaurant, little out of the way family restaurant. And they handed me the menu. I opened it up, and it was blank. And I thought, they must be pranking me. I said, ma'am, the menu's blank. Can you bring me? She says, no, it's no, there's words on it. And then it hit me. Oh, fuck. So then I just took one hand over the good eye. It was just blank. Did the opposite. Oh, I can see everything. That's when I knew I'd really screwed up. So I ate my shrimp, and then I went to the emergency room. Hoots Memorial was the name of the hospital. That should have been my first clue. There was in the emergency room. Hoots Memorial.
Hoots Memorial. Those said Toots Memorial, which is farts.
I thought he said Hoops Memorial.
Hoots Memorial. It's a fucking hoot.
It's a hoot. So anyway, I went in there, and the only person on duty in the emergency room was a resident from the local med school. And he says, well, that I don't see anything with this big bright scope. Let me go get the fluorescent dye. And so he's got this bottle of fluorescent dye to try to see if he can see anything in my eye. So he turns the bottle up above my eye, and the cap fell off.
No.
Yes, into my damn eye. And then what's the first thing out of his mouth? Oh, I can see it now.
Can you?
Yes.
Is this shit poisonous? That was like that bit in Ring of Power, that stuff would pour in your mouth with that black there.
And so I had sliced my cornea almost all the way down to the pupil. And I still, whenever I get my eyes checked, I say, oh, did you know you have a scar across? Yes, I do. And so the vision in this eye is really kind of shoddy because it's got that scar still across the cornea.
It's not as good as your story, but I have got another eye story.
Oh, I want to hear it. Yeah, sure.
You look like a complete coward. I don't know what it was, but I suddenly realized I couldn't see very well out of this eye. And I was like, something's not right. And I couldn't, it was like I had tunnel vision or something. And I remember my wife at the time sort of comes and says, when can you see my finger? And I was just like, now. And she's like, oh, okay, something's gone wrong. So I was just like, oh, Jesus. So I was virtually blind in this eye. And nothing had happened. So I went to the doctors, and they were saying, well, it must be, you must have detached the retina. And I was just, I've sneezed or something, and detached the retina. Ah, crap. That can't be good. So I went to the hospital, and they put that stuff in my eye that made me look like a raccoon. So it made my dilate my eye like that. But she said, I have to check the pressure on the eyeball to make sure it's not like a thing. So it's this machine, and you have to put your chin on it like that. Thing. And it does a of air, but then it's this little machine comes up and it literally just touches your eye, and it takes a pressure thing. So I was just like, okay, you must stay still. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'm like, no, I'm okay. Right, this time. No, 19 times it took.
Oh my God!
To get the reading that she wanted, and then the results. I hadn't done anything to my retina. My eyes were absolutely fine. What I'd done was somehow I'd pulled a muscle here, sort of thing. So this muscle had sort of like banged, and all it was literally doing was pulling my eye it was actually pulling the eyeball ever so slightly. So obviously you've got the iris, and then you've got the bit at the back of the eyeball. It had pulled my eye, so the light basically wasn't hitting the next day. I could feel it. I could feel like it was like a string across my face, but I could feel it the next day, and I was like, doing that sort of thing. And that's all I'd done. I thought my eye was falling out, and I had to go through that bloody machine, and I looked like a raccoon for 2 days because my irises were like that, all because a muscle had pulled in my eyeball.
I'm fucking petrified.
Yeah.
Body just freaking amazing though that's a thing. It's just like a muscle blinded me, completely blinding one eye.
We're talking about the eye balance from the show, and I'm perfectly fine with that. And after hearing those two stories, I got some hoo-has,
I've got a bum story one of the days, mate, that you get to look forward to that as you get older. They become very interested in your back passage when you turn 40. And they want to check regularly. I'm just going to I'll tell you this. I'm not telling you the whole story because it goes on for ages, but I'll tell you this little bit. I had a doctor. I was really unwell, and I had this same thing, and the doctor wanted to check it wasn't my my colon. So he says, right, we're just going to check. So you bend over, breathe deeply, and I was like, oh yeah, bugger. And then pulls things out, and I'm like, okay. And then he literally sit me down and went, right, I'm not a specialist, so I'm just going to send you off. I'm going to refer you to the things. I'm like, so I'm sat there. I'm not sat there. I'm like hovering over the chair because what he's just done. And I was like, if you didn't know what you were checking for, why did you do it?
Not a specialist.
I'll just give it a go, you prick. Just like,
give it a whirl. Just God.
Somebody. That would be the equivalent to me at work. Somebody going, oh, I've got a tummy. No problem, mate. Bend over. I'll just check for you. Oh, you know what? I don't actually know what I'm checking for. So don't do it. So anyway, that story went on a little while, and it's a gross way to end the video. But
it's hilarious.
The first thing I did was I looked at his hands as soon as he told me what he was going to do, and he was this big, fat-fingered. And I was like, oh, this is going to hurt so much. And it did. It was horrible. But yeah, as soon as you turn 40, Harris, that's what you get to look forward to.
Oh, joy.
You lucky bunny. There.
I got a couple years, thankfully.
Yeah. Well, as a man, when you get a certain age, what kills you will almost certainly be up your backside. So it's worth checking. Or your heart. Obviously, or your heart.
One of the two.
One of the two.
So, chaps,
sure.
Thank you. So, on that lovely note, Bob's just going, I'm just a janitor. I'll give it a look. I'll give it a try.
I'll give it a look too.
I'm hoping he was a doctor. He had doctor in his name. Maybe his name was just doctor. But yeah.
He was going around like Doctor Strange. It was just a fake name.
I remember about a year later, I walked in with flu or something, and it was the same doctor, and I just turned around and walked straight back out.
Not again.
Yeah, not again. You hurt me. You abused me. Anyway, so thank you guys so much for another brilliant chat. I think we've sorted Stargate Series 4 out. Do you remember when we were talking about Stargate ages ago? Do you remember that?
Yeah, ages ago.
Forever ago. But thank you so much, chaps. Hopefully, again, like I say, we will see you next week for more hijinks and silliness.
Woohoo! We'll talk about his butt some more.
Yeah, I'll tell you my nipple story next time. That's brilliant. I haven't got a nipple story. I just picked a body part out of my head. I don't know why.
So chat next week, just pick body parts and we'll have a
right.
You're old enough to have gross stories about them, probably. So,
we'll talk about our x-rays and mucus.
Yeah. I'll tell you about how I genuinely broke my tailbone and didn't know for like 10 years. So I'll tell you that story. Yeah, I'll tell you after we get off.
That's kind of intriguing.
I'll tell you in a minute. But
well, did somebody have really fat fingers or?
So fat they broke my tailbone. Yes, that's exactly how it happened.
It brings a whole new term.
And did you have to tip afterwards? I'm just confused.
All I'm saying is don't go to Amsterdam. They're mental. Don't know what
that makes it even worse, bro.
accent. That is not true. It's a joke. That's not what happened. Guys, say bye-bye.
See y'all
Goodbye,
next week.
everybody. May your tailbones be fortunate this week.
Don't break them.
Please, guys, have a lovely week. Americans, we'll see you next week.
Don't hike alone.
Never. There's bears. See you later, guys.
There.